Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, and I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Ammons, Mr. Brown,
Here.
Mr. Jacobson,
Here.
Mr. Madigan,
Here.
Ms. Marlin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Smythe, Mayor Pressing.
Here. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, October 3rd, 2016.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Roberts,
Second.
seconded by Jacobson. Any additions or corrections? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Are there any additions to the agenda? Don't see that there are. Okay, petitions and communications. I have Bishop King James and Reverend Dr. Evelyn Underwood do not wish to speak, but ask that their position be entered into the record, that they're continually concerned about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problem. And then Durrell Cruz.
Good evening. 3 weeks ago, the City Council voted down Councilperson Ammons' motion that investigatory stops only be conducted when justified by clear evidence of criminal behavior or when a community emergency or safety reason exists. I'd like to address that this evening and talk a little bit and share some concrete data that you have at your disposal at this point in time. Your decision not to approve this was unfortunate. Let me explain. With all due respect to Chief Conley and the Urbana Police Department, if approved, Chief Conley claims such a decision would be tying their hands. The several examples he gave were neither applicable nor relevant to the point Mr. Ammons was making. Traffic stops involving an active crime such as a burglary, bank robbery, etc., are not even included in IDOT data. He also talked about the role of pretextual traffic stops. These types of investigatory stops, if justified by clear evidence of criminal behavior, would not have been prohibited either. What would have been prevented are investigatory stops based on little more than a hunch, a feeling, or a racial preconception. In other words, your decision left public oversight of this specific policing tactic and strategy solely to the discretion of the police, regardless of possible detrimental effects on the community. When community standards of policing differ from department standards, defer to the police. Yes, Mr. Ammons' motion, in a sense, would have tied the hands of the police. It would have required officers to be more diligent, conscious in following the law and Constitution in the exercise of probable cause when stopping a driver to conduct an investigation. So let's look at the local data that's at least available now to you. And I'd just like to go through this, and this is from the traffic stop study. The data evidence, the total number of probable cause consent searches of Caucasian drivers from 2007 to 2013 was 476. The number of those searches of African American drivers was 882. Even though African American drivers only make up 16 to 18% of the driving public. They're stopped for probable cause consent searches twice as much. The total number of Caucasian stops during these 7 years, that's all traffic stops, was 13,761. The total number of African American stops during these 7 years was 8,221. One of every almost 29 Caucasian driver stops resulted in a probable cause consent search. One of every 9 African American driver stops resulted in a probable cause consent search. Percent of probable cause consent searches of Caucasian drivers that resulted in a hit or finding contraband was 39%. Yet for African American drivers, it was 26.7%. 12% less. This is data you have had for years in front of you. So what's a summary of the data evidence? We know African American drivers are stopped about twice the rate one would statistically expect based on their proportion of the driving public. African American drivers are subject to almost twice as many probable cause consent searches as Caucasian drivers, even though Caucasian drivers make about 69% of the driving public. Figuring that into it, that's an astounding figure. African American drivers are 3 times more likely to be subject to a probable cause consent search
You have 1 minute, Mr. Cruz.
than a Caucasian driver. The hit rate is 12% higher for Caucasian drivers. And this is the one that's most profound in my mind. 647 of the 882 stops for African American probable cause investigatory searches were unfounded. In other words, nothing except an intrusionary investigatory stop occurred with no purpose or end result at all. I'm bringing this to you tonight and to the public because you're going to be looking at statistical information coming up. You're going to be looking at the type of statistical information. And I'd like to make the following suggestion and reiterate it again. Moving forward, the City Council must improve its investigatory stop data collection. The following changes should be immediately requested by you, the City Council, as representatives of the citizens and various communities of Urbana. 1, eliminate and replace the current 3 categories of stops: traffic, targeted patrol, and community caretaking on the citation and warning forms with safety stop, investigatory stop, and safety stop turned investigatory stop, to clearly identify and distinguish all stops as either simply as a traffic safety stop or a traffic stop that involves an investigatory component. You have to be able to distinguish that difference. Include the data collection recommended in 2.14 on the citation form, and most importantly, include a simple line on the ticket where the officer explains the probable cause reason for initiating an investigatory stop. And that is done in some police departments. So I bring that to you as you look forward to this discussion in the coming weeks, and you look at this topic, and hopefully the data that's collected you'll look at more seriously than the data you have right in front of you and responding to it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Oh, you want to, oh,
Just
Eric
a quick
Jacobson.
question.
Yeah.
If you have some sources that, about other communities that are gathering data in the way that you're suggesting, I for one, would be happy to look at that, and also I expect everybody here would.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Unfinished business, we have 3 items. Ordinance number 2016-09-084, an ordinance adopting and approving the redevelopment plan and the related redevelopment projects for the proposed central redevelopment project area of the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois.
I will move to approve that.
I think Diane had
Oh.
her hand up. Did you want to say something, or
No,
just?
I was just going to move it. It's fine.
Okay, okay. Eric Jacobson moves it, seconded by Charlie Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next, ordinance number 2016-09-085, an ordinance designating the central redevelopment project area of the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Next, ordinance number 2016-09-086, an ordinance adopting tax increment financing for the central redevelopment project area of the City of Urbana, Champaign County, Illinois.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Roberts, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Reports of standing committees. Eric Jacobson?
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move approval of ordinance number 2016-10-096, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance for fiscal year 2016-17, which is capital improvement and VERF rebudgets and some other revisions.
Second.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Marlin. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. That motion carries.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move approval of ordinance number 2016-09-087, an ordinance vacating a certain portion of right-of-way, namely Barr Avenue west of North Cunningham Avenue.
Second.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move passage of ordinance number 2016-10-098, an ordinance approving an amended and restated right-of-way license agreement with Metro Communications Company.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan? Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move approval of ordinance number 2016-10-099, an ordinance approving a right-of-way license agreement with Consolidated Communications Enterprise Services, Inc.
Second.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move passage of resolution number 2016-10-064R, resolution authorizing an amendment to construction engineering services agreement, namely an amendment to engineering agreement regarding High Cross Road, Illinois Route 130 between University and Florida Avenues.
Second.
Who seconded? Oh, okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Mike.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Madigan. All those in favor? Oh, no, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move approval of resolution number 2016-10-065R, a resolution to approve an intergovernmental cooperative agreement between the City of Urbana and the University of Illinois, namely an agreement regarding increased and maintenance of lighting on Springfield Avenue between Wright Street and Goodwin Avenue.
Second.
Motion by Jacobson, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Madigan?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
That motion carries. Are there any reports of special committees? Are there any reports of officers? Brandon Boyes, Economic Development Director.
Just a brief update. The News Gazette published today in the online on their website that NewMed Urbana, the medical cannabis dispensary up off University Avenue, plans to open on October 25th, which is next Tuesday. And later this week, on Wednesday and Thursday, they will have hours for the public to tour the building. So this is probably the only opportunity to tour the facility. So I just wanted council to be aware. Wednesday the 19th from 4 to 7 p.m. and Thursday the 20th from 1 to 5 p.m.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other reports of officers?
I just,
Okay,
I-
Eric? Go ahead.
I was called by Ben Rediger, the person at NewMed, to go and see that individually. I would assume that the other council
Yeah,
members were
you've
as well.
been
Okay.
invited.
Okay, I didn't want to keep that a secret.
Okay. Any other reports of officers? No? Okay. Any new business? All right. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.